Background is up. Yeah, okay. I don't want you
There
to
we
see my
go.
mess. Yes. How you doing,
I
man?
like it. Hey, I'm good, man. It's great to meet you.
You too, Joe. It's funny. We kind of met over the internet, so this is the first time I think we've met face to face. So likewise.
Yeah. My friend John Bedoin, his brother Steven. John Bedoin is one of my dearest, oldest friends. We started in journalism together back in the early 90s. So he told me I'm at the Red Door and I'm seeing these cats that are just grooving. I'm like, dude, you're in Major League Jazz area. Just turn it off and get in. And he was
That's
just
right.
digging it and getting into it. And then I have your autograph copy on my desk. It's been
Oh,
full
wonderful.
circle. Yeah.
Wow. That's really an interesting story, man. So it's such a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah.
So I like your background. It's funny. I know it's Kansas City, but
Yes, sir.
it one of those buildings looks like Philadelphia. So like we have like a dual city thing happening. Looks like
I,
one of the main buildings there.
okay. So I was just talking to someone yesterday from Philly, and I said there's a grit and there's a determination, especially with sports, that's very akin between KC and Philly. It just
Absolutely.
is. So that I'm a visual artist, so that's a painting I did a while
Oh,
back.
wonderful. That's
And then
nice.
and then I put the trumpet player, kind of a Miles meme, so to speak. So yeah, that's
Sure.
my stuff. But yeah, man,
I,
it's
I keyed in on that, man.
yeah,
Wow.
dude.
It's a shame you won that Super Bowl, though.
Man, let me
It was
tell
a
you
great
something.
game, though.
Let me tell you something right now. Never
Woo.
ever tell a Kansas City team that they can't win. Don't get everybody betting against you because it's going to turn around. It's bad.
It was great. It's funny. I took some solace into knowing that my dear friend Bobby Watson
Yeah.
had that win under his belt. So of course, we called him right away and congratulated him. But it was a great day, man. And I've always had a real love for Kansas City. Uh, Many times coming there on behalf of Bobby and
Yeah.
just going from the airport to Gates Barbecue and getting the barbecue and eating some
Amen.
and then going to the hotel to take a nap before sound check.
Yeah.
And
That that barbecue will knock you out.
it sure will. It's funny because I still order the sauce here in
Oh,
New
good.
Jersey where I live. And I have 2 bottles right now waiting for the grill to spark up in a few weeks. So
Very nice.
yeah,
Very nice.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Bobby is the king of Kansas City. To have an ambassador like him, he has created so much good in this town with all of the players that he's taught. It
Absolutely.
just brought a whole crop. I mean, the good that he spread, not only in the world of jazz, but in the atmosphere of music in this country and world.
Community,
Unreal, man.
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. My dear friend. So yeah, so I'm sorry about the tissue. Actually, I just got off of the treadmill, so I
Okay, you're
can't
good.
stop this burn, which is good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's nothing wrong with us sweating in the interview. It's all good.
Yeah. So I'm not nervous. I'm
No, no,
just
no. I
I
know.
had a really good workout. I had to time it for 10, well, it was 10:30 our time,
Yeah.
and I got off at 10:18, and I ran downstairs, took a shower, put the shirt on, and I feel great. So thank you for getting me out of bed early today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining me. And I think the one thing I want to start off with is, we all went through COVID and you had a
Yeah,
live album that came out. It has to be triumphant, not only to have new material, but it's live and you're
yeah,
back.
yeah. It's funny because when I received that recording from Ken Kitchings over at Side Door, I think I can't remember how far we were into the pandemic, but it was a few months. That gig was January of 2020. So we had no clue, and we were building steam up from the previous recording theme for Miss P. So we were getting gigs. Again, I mentioned this in the liner notes. If anyone actually gets the physical copy, they can read the liner notes where I talk about, just the fact of finally having a release and going into the Side Door as a leader when having, been a performer there as a sideman for many years, many years. And so it was a really big deal for me. And so part of what we do when we go out to these live audiences, at least what I do, is I try to present a little bit from each of the recordings that I have out, because you have some fans that don't know the new stuff. They're 2 CDs behind. They have that one, and they might want to hear some. So what we did is we did a little compilation of the Vince Ector songbook per se, and not knowing that this was actually going to turn out into a recording. And then when Ken sent it to me, I mean, we were all in a really dark place and nothing was happening, and we're stuck in the house, and we're trying to think of these ways to, just simply occupy our time. So this is great. So of course, with a live concert, Joe, the tunes are long.
Yeah.
Everyone takes a solo, and it's okay. It's okay.
Sure.
But I knew that we had to chop it down. So basically, there's no mixing. It was straight to from the board, but we had to chop the length of some tunes down. So maybe, going over, getting the markers and saying, okay, we'll delete this solo to make it, radio, terrestrial or extraterrestrial friendly,
Yeah.
and that's really all it took. But again, it took me probably a year. I would start it and I would stop.
Yeah.
Then I would start it and I would stop. It was just like then I try to write some new stuff and everything is like so dark and depressing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get this thing done. Fast forward down the line, Joey DeFrancesco called me out of the blue. We hadn't played together in 20 years. We knew each other for almost 30 years. So back in 2000, we did a record for Charles Earlin, who had passed. Was my longtime boss, and first record date, first trip to Europe, Charles Earlin, the Mighty Burner, who lived in Chicago at the time of his death. So after he passed, we talked with the record label High Note. Joe Fields was alive at the time, and he really liked the idea. Charles was recording a lot for them over the years, and so we decided to do a tribute album. And so we laid these tracks down, and I put one of my tunes on there. And I remember Charles always told me, have an extra tune because we're always short, like always carry one of your tunes. And I had one of my own on there, and I had another from my wife. And so, wow, we're short. So I had her song, and Eric Alexander, he's on it, Jim Rotundi, Bob DeVoe, Joey, and this is the kicker. So Pat Martino's there. He's going to do two songs because South Philly, Pat Martino, South Philly, Charles Earlin, South Philly, Vince Ector, Philly, Joey. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
So Pat had finished doing I think he did two tunes. He's contracted to do two tunes, and he's leaving, so he hears this tune that my wife wrote, and he comes back and he says, do you mind if I play on it? Of course not. So he plays on it, and we lay it down, and when the record finally comes out, that tune winds up getting on Swiss Air, that's no longer around. And my wife Karen, she did better than all of us on the recording because of that song. But every time we would see Joey over the years, he knew her from that time. She wasn't in the studio that day, but they had met on several occasions. He would look at her and say, you wrote that tune. When are you going to put out another one? So it was like an ongoing joke between us. So back to the call, Joey calls me, has some dates, man, love to play together. Oh, fantastic, man. We go to Tennessee, we do a festival. Then we went to Tennessee, then we go to Philadelphia, our hometown, and we do a weekend there in South. And then we go to Ronnie Scott's in England, and then we go to Portugal, and that's it. That's the last time that I see him. But during that tour, he kept encouraging me, put this thing out, put it out, just get it out, man. He has the organized show. He's like, I'll play it. Of course, man, great. My brother, my friend, he looks at the cover. There was some issues with the type of organ, because Joey designed organs. He was like more than just a musician. I mean, he was like an engineer too. So there was something that wasn't historically correct in the picture that my graphic artist had chosen for the cover. And he said, no, that's a classical organ. You should change it. So we changed the cover, and we put out, the liner notes had already been done. If I had thought about it then, I would have asked him to actually write them. So anyway, encouraged us to put it out. We finally got to the finish line and put it out. So it's just like a window into time, right before, we have some momentum, and then the world stops. Guess what? I want people to go back to the clubs, because again, as we're going through the pandemic, some musicians are working, but it's very strict. You have to be vaccinated. You need to wear masks. You need to be tested as soon as you get there. People are not really comfortable coming out. some are, most aren't. So the, of course, the crowds, you saw it in Kansas City, the crowds not there. So in a way, it was me encouraging the audience to remember what live music was and to come on out and support these clubs, some of which did not survive the pandemic. So that's the long and short of the story of live at the side door.
Yeah, I interviewed Joey before he passed, and man, he was a transcendent cat. Like, there's certain people you talk to that just are in another level, and he was unreal. I mean, it's Joey, he's a legend, but there's just something about certain people that has a grasp on this reality that's just way above and beyond a regular handle.
Absolutely. We definitely lost him too soon. And remember, he came up in the tradition of Philadelphia. So
Uh-huh.
he got to see Don Patterson like me. He got to see Jimmy Smith, Shirley Scott. I mean, Jimmy McGriff. He got to see everyone and folks that you never really heard of,
Yeah.
that really dealt with that instrument, because we're in Philly, at least during my developmental era, most joints, spots, or clubs had an organ.
Yeah. Yeah.
There, whether it was used all the time or not, there was a B3 there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Yeah, sure.
Did the crowds feel different now? You had an absence. It was really tough on the community. How does it feel to be live now?
Good question. So let's see. Sunday, this past Sunday, I did a show at Smalls here in New York with Bruce Williams, who's on two of my previous recordings. I'm on one of his. We're very good friends and colleagues. Bruce does an annual birthday party show at Smalls every year. So we played there. It was full. People are coming out. They're really, I noticed like I think maybe I saw two folks with masks, which is cool. If folks are compromised, you have to do what you have to do. I mean, we know folks that were lost from this pandemic, and sometimes you don't know what folks are going through as far as their health condition, and if they were to even catch a common cold, they could perish, unfortunately. So, but in that sense, just a few, no problem, enthusiastic, but they're there. So even those folks that had to mask up, they're coming out again. They are coming out. So there's a shift now, and I'm hoping that we can continue the momentum. Things are not 100%. There are still engagements being canceled or pushed forward for whatever reason. And I do read a few things on social media where concerts are being canceled, possibly because of health issues, things that have happened, COVID or not. I don't know, but it's a little different. But folks is starting to really come out. I hope that's the fact that in Kansas City. I hope that's happening there as
Yeah,
well.
it is for sure. Yeah,
Good, good.
it's opening up. There's a level of resurgence, and I just feel it in the room, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And just even talking to my friend John was up there, was telling me the room was electric. You guys were on it. It was a level of just, interacting and engaging, because at the end of the day, that's really what the whole live element's all about. I think that's what everybody missed so much about this virtual thing. Jazz is something you need to be in the room. The energy, the particles, everything has to mince together.
Sure. And it's funny, John was there. I think he was at SoPac, right? He came to SoPac.
Yeah.
What we did in April. Yeah. So that was surprisingly full. I think there was 88 seats there, 88 seats for the room. And I think we had 80. So that was a big deal. And that was one of the few concerts that was billed under my name. It was actually canceled COVID. We were supposed to do that March of 2020.
Yeah.
And so that was actually the makeup concert 3 years later.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So yeah, it was a special moment, and we featured Antonio Hart on that, as you know, who another dear friend and colleague, and he came out and really helped us out with that, and just brought us to a different level. It's great. It's great when you get to perform with your friends. I mean, folks that you really enjoy being around. For us, it's not always just business. If you can really commune together with someone who you have a history with, maybe you've traveled with before and laughed and joked and really, know a little bit more about who they are as human beings, it really makes the music strong. So, everyone that's in my ensemble, we can say that. I mean, from Pat to Paul to Bruce to Antonio to even Justin. I mean, Justin Jones, who's featured on the disc because of Bruce Williams. He had I think he had a hernia or something like that. Something he had to get done. We do it over the holidays. We teach it to college. When do we have time to actually get something done on our own bodies? It's usually over the holidays. So it wasn't safe for him to play during that time. And as far as we knew, Joe was just a gig. It was an important gig, but we were not making a record. We're just going to go do this gig, and he can't make it. Justin was prepared because he had studied with Bruce over at Juilliard, excuse me, brain cramp, Juilliard, and for years, and probably before that. So he was thoroughly prepared, and there was a lineage there. The grandmaster passing it down to his student, who really took care of the business, so much so that we were able to put out a recording of it. So it's a big deal. Again, back to my point of community in the music as well, and hopefully folks can really feel that when they listen to it.
The one thing that's been so good about your career, like with this live album and other projects you've been on, you always evolve. What's been your key to longevity?
I think my family. Yeah, I have to say my family. I mean, my wife, my daughters, they keep me grounded. I mean, they really, they keep me hopeful. They inspire me. They keep me healthy. They keep me grounded, which is very important. I'd have to say, my family, and again, all of them are artists, so we all deal with similar challenges.
Yeah,
it can get really interesting. The
yeah,
other day, my daughter called me from California, and she had a dilemma. A dilemma that most musicians want, which is she can't be in two places at one time. And fortunately, I was in the car with another dear friend and artist, Myron Walden. And Myron is, we're going to a concert. And so I said, let me just put you on speaker because I'm still dad. And so she lays the scenario out. So just the fact that we had, again, community, we're talking, Myron's giving his opinion, I'm giving my opinion. She was able to work it out. And it worked out to the point where she was able to do both engagements that she really needed. And remember, I don't know if I mentioned that in the liner notes, before the pandemic, she had just performed on Saturday Night Live, something I'd never done, nor my wife. So the world and the career shut down for her big time as well. Imagine that you go and play Saturday Night Live, and then you're touring the world. She's playing Coachella, Bonnaroo. She played Glastonbury, in England. So it's, and then nothing. You're at home watching Netflix. So anyway, my family, absolutely my family. Yes.
So, the one thing that we all realized when we were away from this, all of us dealt with it in a different way, but for the community, like you said, everything just melted away immediately. Now that we're back, which doesn't, I mean, when we were in this, we didn't know when it was going to end, and now we're coming out. I think there's a part of our brains that are in PTSD. We're like, wow, regular things are happening. What's going on? Because there was so much of this push and pull. All right, everything's fine. Omicron comes in. There was all these variants. But now that we're back at it, and you've had a chance to evaluate and assess your existence as a musician, what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What is it that really gets you excited every day for what you get to do for a living?
That's a good question. Oh, I should have turned this off. I'm sorry. Let me just,
good.
it's probably a solicitor. Okay, so unfortunately, I can't mute it at this point, but
oh, you're fine. I don't hear anything. It's good.
That's a landline, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
The cell is off.
That's old school, man. It's like an 8-track.
Yeah, man. I know. I'm actually in my office, so like there's some things we still have to maintain in this 21st century workspace that we have. So again, I'm sorry for the distraction, but
You're fine.
so let's say, as far as what's next for me, or
Well, I was
go back.
wondering, what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What really
Okay,
energizes
thank
you?
you. Sorry about that. Okay,
You're fine.
so I think for me, teaching. I like to teach, and then when I see students, no matter what level they're on, who actually go on to do really good things, not necessarily in the music industry, but just being successful. Like for instance, I run a nonprofit with my wife, Arts for Kids Inc. Actually, look, the name tag is still up because I was in a meeting before this, and I had to rename my screen. So this is our organization. So I'll just highlight that. And what we do is we go into schools and we present the arts with using professional teaching artists, folks that I know, folks that I've met in music, dance, drama, visual art, technology. We do robotics and coding. We do a lot. So sometimes I get to teach these classes myself. And when I walk in and I see a kid and they say, "Hey, I remember you. I really like the class. Glad you're back." Or "I did this. My mother took me to see a show and I was thinking about you." I mean, these little things, they add up in my mind. So for me to actually be able to go out and do this for a living as a performer and also as an educator at that level with Arts for Kids, and also at Princeton University where I teach college level students, seeing them go out and send me emails about their gigs, or maybe they got a new job on the West Coast, and I'm not playing music professionally, but I'm doing gigs, and to see their improvement. I've been practicing that book and the stuff that you gave me, and I'm really really excited that I'm able to do all of this. It's like an outlet for folks too. So for me to be able to share that with other people is extremely, it humbles me deeply. And I feel like I have to give back to the community because I'm being blessed by being able to go and get on a plane and go to places that I couldn't even pronounce, when I was their age, Bratislava, Slovakia, you know, Tivat, Montenegro, uh, Belgrade, Serbia. I mean, I've been to some really interesting places that you wouldn't normally buy a ticket for vacation. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, Japan is fantastic, but if you save enough money, you can go to Japan, but you probably wouldn't pick some of these other areas unless you had a real purpose. And that's what makes it special, because I'm exposed to things that I wouldn't normally be exposed to, and that my parents weren't exposed to. And a lot of people that I grew up with were never able to be exposed to. But then I can also post about it and share that with them, pictures and moments. So I think that's what I enjoy the most. Yes. Yes. I
It's
know it's a
funny.
lot.
It's fun. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Serbia. My son's really into the NBA, and when the Nuggets won, he loves Jokic. And there was a clip
Yeah.
this morning where he was lamenting the fact that he had to do the parade because he's ready to go home.
He wants to go home.
Right. And Miles is like, my son's name is Miles for obvious reasons, and he was like, "So
Yeah.
where's he going? Serbia. What's he gonna do? I don't know. He's gonna see family. I don't know what he's gonna do in Serbia."
And I'll tell you something. I was in Montenegro last year, and there were Serbian musicians there.
Wow,
Those cats can play.
man, the
They
spread.
can. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
they
Oh, I
can
have
play.
no doubt.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people around the world that you wouldn't expect it's going on. That just
Uh-huh.
shows the global reach and spread and the torch
Yeah.
of this unique art form that's gone all over the world, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Shout out to Drum Booty. There's a group there, close, really good friend of mine who's a drummer. I know it's a funny name, but it's great. I love it. I
Yeah,
have a
totally.
sister of theirs. These cats came in there and they handled the business. Let me tell you, really great. So it's funny. That was my second interaction with musicians from Serbia. Years ago, I had gone to Belgrade with the Dizzy Gillespie All Star ensemble, and James Moody was on that tour with us, and Slide Hampton, and we did the Belgrade Jazz Festival, and I'm pretty sure Terrence Blanchard was the artist in residence that year, so his band was there, and we got to do a workshop in the community with college level students of music, and it was so rewarding. They sounded great. They had great attitude, and at that time, they were still telling us stories about the war and how they would go to the roofs of their apartment buildings and watch the mortars rain down while they would cook dinner on barbecue grills.
Wow.
Our driver told us that story. So this was right after that had subsided, but it was in the same year. So to overcome things like that and, you know, really dig into the music, it's beautiful. So
It is.
yeah, our Belgrade story. Yes. Tell Miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. So you read my mind before you were talking about what's next. Tell me where people can pick up the CD, the best place, and anything that's going on in your world before we get out here.
Sure. So what I want to do, can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I did is I put my website up. Here we go. Let me see. It's almost there. And let me know if you can see it once we get it there. Okay. You just say host say, okay, disable. Yeah, just enable screen sharing. If not, then if you could pull up www.vinceector.com, it's my homepage and it has the recording there. You can go to Bandcamp and get it. It's being distributed now. I think there's a few hard copies left on Amazon, but I have a new distributor. So that's going to start going into any brick and mortar around the country. You can also, if you want a hard copy, you can also just email me.
Okay.
And I will arrange that, a signed copy and cover the postage as well. Or if you're in this area and you see my performance schedule, which is also on the website, come out to a gig and I'll sign it. So it's www.vinceector.com.
And I'll put that in the notes. I'll make sure that that's front and center.
Absolutely.
Yes, cool.
And then, you know, so it's on the streaming platforms, but as you know, Apple Music is only going to show me enough to get a piece of candy at the corner store. But it's fine. What I tell folks is this: some still have CD players, some don't. Buy the CD and then download it on the internet for free and share it with a friend.
Yeah.
But the signature, that's valuable because when I'm going, you're going to want to sell that CD. You might be able to get about 10 grand for it too.
That's right. At least.
Yes, sir. So
and I got one of those. Everyone out there in Jazzland, I got one and it's coveted. So you need to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe. It's great to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Vince, thank you very much. It's great to see you. Best of luck with everything. It's so good to see you cats out swinging. So keep swinging hard, man.
Thank you. And folks in Kansas City, let your venues know. Bring Vince Ector out there. We'll come to Kansas City. We can do a live show, and I always love the energy. And I have to get my Gates barbecue fixed. I'm sorry.
100%, man.
Let the Gates family know I'm thinking about them.
That's right.
Brian's too. I like them as well.
Oh, yeah. 100%.